Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. About a little more than a year ago I made a video predicting ZB1's future post-disbandment. However, since making that there's been a lot of updates and events that I feel it's been enough time to make an update video and make some new predictions. I'll be following a similar formula as last time where I'll go through each member one by one, but this time I'm also including the possibility that ZB1 does renew their contract. Probably the least likely from any of the three possibilities I'll be talking about today. We've never had a renewed contract until Kepler, and even then we still lost 2 of the members. Which by the way speak up about what's going with Mnet. Anyways, I find it impossible that ZB1 will be the group to have a full renewal, especially because of the Yuehua boys. Yuehua most definitely has a plan with the 4 members, especially Yujin and Jongho. They're some of the most popular members in the group. Yujin's influence, especially in 5th gen's variety content, is also so immense I wouldn't understand why Yuehua wouldn't want to prioritize them. The nail in the coffin for a full renewal is also based on Yuehua's recent group activity, aka there is barely any. They're in desperate need of a big hit in Korea. Tempest is doing decent, but they're getting more and more outcompeted, and their biggest group hit, Everglow, has also had conflict with pay and general popularity. Yena is their biggest name in their Korean branch. So by bringing in their 4 members out, redebuting them, you not only grab a hold onto the Korean market, but the Chinese market as well, which Yuehua already a massive legacy in. Of course, it's still a possibility for a reason. Recently the members have talked more and more about wanting to stick together, so the desire is very much there. Probably the biggest piece of evidence in support of an OT9 renewal is their world tour announcement. The tour is set to begin in October of this year, and as many have pointed out, tour aren't 3 to 4 month things. Their 2024 tour, which was Asia only, took 4 months in itself, from September to December. This definitely hints at a potential contract renewal, especially since the tour is predicted to last past their January meetings. This however also means the boys will be having constant meetings, discussions and company disagreements while simultaneously performing for hours on end weekly. That aspect is what kinda makes me uncertain that this world tour is a definite sign towards renewal. Yet it's still a positive thing and a point towards a permanent contract. While I think it's a little more likely, the more I think about it, the less I believe this'll happen. You're probably bored of me mentioning the Yuehua for so much, but frankly this entire renewal lies on Yuehua's hands basically. If all 4 were to leave, that'd make the group from 9 members to 5, which is huge. They'd also be losing such core members. All 4 are very involved in variety content. Hyun and Yujin especially for their Korean audience, Ricky Jongho for their international. ZB1 would also be losing their center with How departure, and I'd even argue they'd lose a second center since it seems the group has pushed Yujin more and more as a center with each comeback. Furthermore, would the other members want to continue as a group after losing so many members? They're such a tight-knit group, losing one, let alone 4, would probably demoralize them. It would me at least. Still, I think it's definitely possibly they at least stick together, but rather than just 5 I think it'll be 6 members. It's like genuinely a crazy theory, but something in my gut tells me how might leave Yuehua and continue with the other members. Is it impossible? Yeah. Jongho is like the most popular member. Losing him would be Yuehua's worst possible outcome, but I still think it's possible. Still, in the scenario they do go separate ways, it's most likely the group will phase out over time. Again, they'd be losing their most popular members both globally and locally. Anyways, with both resigning possibilities, let's move on to the next section. The worst case scenario would be disbandment, but truthfully, it's the most likely. Anyways, I'll be going through each member and give my predictions for each. Let's start with the members that will be the defining force for ZB1's disbandment or continuation. First, Yujin. He genuinely gives me future boy vibes, and the popularity locally and in China is 100% there. He's most likely to be the center of Yuehua's new group, especially if they decide to exclude Jongho from the group. On a similar note, Hyun and Ricky will most likely debut alongside Yujin. However, like I said in my original video, I think there's a slight chance Ricky will get more solo activities in China over Korean solo activities. On a completely opposite direction, I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky chooses to leave Yuehua altogether. I think Jongho has more incentive to do so, but I wouldn't be shocked if Ricky would follow alongside with him. As for the group's concept, I have to be honest, I'm not too hopeful. Not because of the members but because of Yuehua. Yuehua has a special talent of fucking up their Korean artists big time even when they're set for success. Everglow, Tempest, Yena, all artists crazy successful at debut only to be phased out by the company's stupidity. Still, with names as big as the ZB1 boys, I doubt they wouldn't capitalize the opportunity. As for Jongho, I originally thought he wouldn't debut in a group at all. Instead theorizing he'd begin a solo career in China. I don't think this is as likely as I used to think. It'd be stupid for Yuehua not to include him in their lineup. But I do think he'd get the typical treatment Yuehua gives their Chinese K-pop idols, which is to send them to China for periods of time to promote. Ultimately, if he is in the lineup, he'd be a clear center and even leader. How is crazy popular, and I don't see his popularity waning anytime soon. To be quite frank, I just don't see any scenario where Jungkook re-debuts in a new boy group unless it's a majority of his members. And this is going to sound incredibly ageist, but it's because of his age. By the time ZB1 disbands, he'll be around freshly 27, turning 28 the same year. He'd have around 1 to 3 years before he had to enlist, having a member already in the army while your group is still barely under 2 years old simply isn't a realistic strategy. And this pains me so bad because I want to hear Jungkook's voice more. His vocal tone is so beautiful and it's probably my favorite in 5th gen. He'll definitely pick up acting again, but I actually also see a potential solo career. Regardless, I cannot lose this man to acting. Jungkook's solo album 15 tracks coming out 2028 make my words. Again, I don't really see Terry joining another group. I feel he'd thrive best going solo or becoming an OST singer. He'd be insanely popular, especially with an older singer, if he also decides to lean into trot or ballad solo work. Of course, has trained to be an idol, so maybe he himself wouldn't prefer being a ballad soloist, but that's I see the most successful path. As for Jungkook, I 100% see him re-debuting in another boy group, but hopefully it won't be under Jellyfish. Especially hearing that their boy group was cancelled, I just don't see them doing a good job at managing him. I think he may be picked up by another company, but truthfully I couldn't tell you which company it may be. Maybe from a mid-size or a completely new company, but I actually see this happening if the ZB1 boys choose to all debut together. I actually him re-debuting with Matthew. Speaking of which, I also see Matthew joining a new group, but I also see him doing more work behind the scenes. He may go solo, but in a way Natty went solo and later joined the group. I don't think he'd stay solo. I also feel he may go a more influencer route, either actual social media or become a regular in variety shows, idol shows. Hanbin is probably the most likely to go solo. He has pretty much every path pointing towards a solo career. The only way I can see him joining a new group is if he and the other boys that don't join Yuehua decide to regroup in a new company. Still, I see him having a really successful solo career, maybe in a similar vein of Woods or Kong Daniel. And with that, that'll be all of my current predictions. Of course, there's a chance none of these predictions come true, but it's still fun to speculate. Personally, I'm praying they all stick together like every night I'm begging. Still, what are some of your predictions for the future? Feel free to comment down below. I'll see you next week hopefully. Bye.